Welcome back. I'm Rebekah.
And I'm Gabe. And we are so glad to have Willie and Korie Robertson with us today.
Woo!
Yeah, they're some of our favorites, longtime friends. Willie and Korie, welcome to Rhythms for Life.
What's up? You're just saying that because we're on the podcast with you.
It's not
Yeah,
true.
you are our
Or you're
favorite.
saying that.
Aw,
Yeah.
thanks.
You're the first to hear it from us.
We'll take that. We're gonna put that on our resume, like Gabe and
Yeah.
Rebekah's favorites.
Add to your bio for
Right.
sure.
Well, Willie and Korie have been friends over a decade now of just life together. We see each other here and there, but our families have been able to get to know each other, and we've been able to watch their journey and learn a lot from their journey. And as we think about marriage and we think about this idea of fighting for us, I would say one of the great lessons we've learned from you guys, there's many, but one of them is the grace with which the two of you sync up. The way the two of you have learned how to work together with very different temperaments, personalities, things that you enjoy doing, and you have found a way to connect. And that's one of the things that Rebekah and I believe so much in, is helping couples go from being individuals to partners.
Right. Yeah. So emphasis in the book is all about career and vocational life. And so often as married couples, we think like our partnership kind of ends inside the home. Like, how do we partner as parents? How do we partner with like keeping everything afloat, the calendar, the kids? But you guys have ventured beyond that, and you're living a life that has partnered outside of the home. And you've even modeled that for your kids who are now adults doing similar things. And I just love that so much. I was like, so when we talk about this, we want to talk to Willie and Korie because we know that this was probably something you had to wrestle with from the very beginning. So I would love to just go back to when you met and those early years of marriage. Did you have a vision even then of how you would partner together, whether it's ministry inside or outside the home? How did that begin for you? And then we'll go from there.
Well, when we partnered, we were young, and I gave her a contract and said, "Would you like to create a partnership with me in 5th grade at Camp Chioka?"
We did meet in 4th and 5th grade, so it started very young for us. But
Yeah.
we were married at 18 and 19, so I don't think we really had quite a vision for what our life was going to be at that point. We just, we're going to live on love and kind of figure it out as we went along, and we did. But I think early on we definitely we went to college together. Willie was not planning on going to college, so as I kind of like helped him through college, we kind of realized
That was your first
what
partnership.
our relationship was going to be. Yes. Yeah.
I was already owing favors right off the bat because of Korie helping me through college. Yeah, I totally agree. And I think for people like us who get married really young probably for everybody, I'm sure, is like you've got to begin the separation of kind of the partnership you have with your parents and how they parent and how they do their relationship. And so I think Korie and I were pretty keen on that early on. Like, okay, these are things we like and these are the things we dislike from what we've seen modeled, and what are we gonna be like? To not just fall into the same roles that you saw growing up. And so I think that was important for us because we were from two totally different, both Christian, both full of faith, on a high level, but very different marriages and how they partner, I would say, with our parents.
Yeah, I think
Hmm.
early on, I was thinking about that too, because like you mentioned, different personalities, and we came from like very different backgrounds in a lot of ways. But I do think that we both came in with like an openness to like figure out what worked for us. And we kind of like laid aside pretty quickly, like, oh, this is what a husband's supposed to do, or this is what a wife's supposed to do. And we were like, okay, what are your strengths? What are my strengths? And like, how can we both like encourage one another in those strengths and also like live in them and bring that to the table of a relationship rather than like letting that pull us apart, where like expectations of like, oh, you're supposed to do this or you're supposed to do this because this is how my mom did it or my dad did it. But like, okay, you're good at that, so you do that. I'm good at this, so I'll do this.
Right. And I'm
Right.
shocked you don't do this. Or
Yeah.
yeah, there was definitely some of that. And Korie and I were unique. I think even in the space we're in now, it's unique that we all work together. But I worked for her parents for like 10 years
Mm.
in the nonprofit world, and then we started running our family business. So she's worked with my parents for the last couple of decades, and so we've we've both been in these partnerships, like in vocation and in life, and everything is just mixed up and jumbled up, and so that creates challenges. But we also have learned even more to go even deeper in who we are
Yeah.
and what we are and how we're going to partner and live our life. And then our kids come along, and now they have their own spouses, most of them, and their own children. So yeah, it's unique how we've done that as well.
I'm curious for like young married couples who are hearing this and the way that you had that conversation early. Like what spurred that? Just curious, like what did you notice right off the bat? Like Willie's great at this, Korie's great at this. Give us some practical examples of some of those things that were maybe countercultural in your moment, but you just like you knew it and you just started to recognize it and name it.
I would say like more about the details. So like balancing the checkbook, doing those types of things. Where in my house, my dad did all of that, like all the money stuff, all the handled everything. Literally, like my mom would. This was back in the days of the checks with the,
Yep.
with the little
The
thing.
register.
Yeah,
Yeah, I had to
exactly. She would
record
like
it.
hand them to dad at the end of the day, whatever, and he would record it all. And it wasn't like dad was like in charge of the money in that way, like he gave her a budget or whatever, but in the way that he just handled all of it. Like he opened all the mail, he did all of that kind of stuff. And in their family, his mom did that.
Hmm.
But I realized, like, okay, I'm better at it. That's just my strength. I'm more conscientious, I guess, as far as that kind of stuff. So I started doing that really early on. Um, what cooking for sure.
Willie's the
I
best.
decided I was gonna I'll
Cooking
really
not, yeah.
try. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I really did try at the beginning because his mom was a really good cook, and so I was like, well, I'll get all the recipes and try. And I was just really bad at it, and I just did not enjoy it. Was not good at it. And so Willie started taking on more of the cooking because he loves it and is good at it. And now he does all of the cooking. Like
Oh
if
man.
he's out of town, my kids are worried about me. They're like, "What are you eating, mom? Are you surviving?" They invite me over to their house now. I'm really thankful for that because I'm so spoiled because Willie does all of that.
Right.
I told my mom, I said, Corey's not that good at cooking. And she said, I told you that's what happens when you marry a skinny girl. And so it's almost like she knew she knew what was going to happen. And so what I would tell, especially young people, I think a lot of young people today, they try to figure it all out. And I would certainly say Corey and I, we're not trying to figure everything out. Like it wasn't like we were like, okay, this is what it's going to be like and how it's going to be. There was a certain spirit of wonder and hope and just finding it as we went along. I mean, certainly 33 years ago, we had no clue, I mean, even 15 years ago, we had no clue where we would be in life with our, television and vocation and all these things. And um, so I do think, I think kids they want to have it all figured out. They want to have it all planned. They want to have the age. This is what's going to happen. This is, we're going to basically plan our whole life out, year by year, decade by decade. And so, yeah, and I think there can be some traps in that by trying to have all the answers because you just don't, And so I think,
Right.
um, you know, like with us, you guys and us, as we see young people, we know like you can just smile, going, you'll figure this out. You're 25 and you think you have it
Right.
figured out, or you think, oh, this is how it's all going to work. And you're like, yep, okay,
Yeah.
Um, and so I think that's important, and for us to be able to find that, I think we had some base things, and also things change. People change. Like Corey is, she's different now than she was then. She's way more confident. Like certain things that, she gathered along the way.
Mm.
I can just see her different. I was like, wow, I never would have thought, she would be doing that, or you'd be on a stage even talking. When we
Right.
first got married, I was like, Corey would never do that. She's never gonna.
I hated that. Whenever my senior year, like I had to speak at my graduation, and
Why did you have to speak? Why would they let you speak?
I didn't want to say it because you're gonna be, gonna be,
Because she helped you through college, Willie.
yeah.
It's probably
I
related to
made
that.
good grades, which made me
Apparently, yeah.
graduation.
If you're at the top one or two, they let you speak at your graduation.
And I was mortified. I was terrified. It was awful. And so yeah, you do things
Yeah.
you don't expect about your life that you grow into, that God
Yeah.
puts you in positions that you're like, okay, God, I'm here, so I got to figure out how to do it, you know. Um, so I think that is an important point. It's just like let each other change and evolve, and it's even like as simple as like the cooking. I was saying like, yes, you look at like our kids are like, you look at dad now and he cooks all the meals and he does the dishes and all this kind of stuff. But it wasn't always that way. He was really busy at different times of our life that he didn't.
Mhm.
And I'm like, I kept y'all alive. Like he makes fun of me because I like never go to the grocery store anymore. I was like, yeah, but I went to the grocery store for about 20 years of our marriage and I
Yeah.
did all of that because you were doing other things at that
Right.
time, you know? And so it's like, yes, there is an evolution. And like, I think whenever you're young and you get married, you have all these expectations that it needs to be right now. It's like, yeah, that might happen in your marriage, but it might be over time. You shouldn't
Right.
don't put it all like here's the
Right.
timeline of when this has to happen and this has to happen and this has to
Right.
happen.
Yeah, it seems like the key is humility. It's looking at each other in a way that says, how can I honor during this season
Mhm.
my person? How do I look at their gifts and lift them up and encourage them and support them when they have different opportunities? And Rebecca and I have gone through that season. We called it the year of Rebecca, which was this year in
2012.
2012, where she was discovering her gift of writing and her story to be told. And I remember stepping back from some of my responsibilities, my travel, doing more time with the dishes, right? The kids. So she could just have a little bit more space than she'd ever had in our marriage, raising these little children to
Mhm.
even think about things. And I think for a lot of younger couples, that's hard to imagine, especially growing up in Christian homes where the traditional idea, and it's changing, but it used to be, hey, the wife's there to just support the husband as he goes out and does the thing he's called to. But so many in this next generation are understanding, look, each of us have unique and distinct assignments, and perhaps God's asking, the husband to come around and look at their wife in a way to say, what is the gift that she has that I don't have, that he's assigned her to, and how do I support her? So, Willie, I'm curious, as you speak to husbands right now, men who maybe grew up in environments where it was all about them, and when they got married, they thought it was supposed to continue to be all about them. How would you encourage them to maybe start to get a little bit of a different perspective on the gift that they have in their wife and starting to view their wife as a person that also has an incredible assignment?
Yeah, I think they've got to, they have to change that thinking. I think that's important. It's not the most grandiose idea, but it's just like sometimes we just have to stop thinking like that and thinking that, the world revolves around us. And we certainly try to teach our kids that. We try, teach people at work that, like, this is not all about you. And, which is certainly a prevalent trait um, with a lot of people, because especially how a lot of kids are raised today, it is all about them. And it's obvious, you can go in their households and look, and everything's centered around a 2-year-old or a 10-year-old or 15-year-old. And so it's not that at all. Um, and some of the lessons we have to learn is when we literally crash the car, and you learn a great lesson and hopefully
Yeah.
you survive. But that's where you really learn the lesson. You're like, wow, and then you realize kind of the faulty in your thinking. I think if you can see the power of two is way better than the power of one.
Mm.
That'll start unlocking. I feel like, um, some of the thinking of, especially for some men, is to be like, hey man, this is a great helper, and not in the lesser sense at all. It's just I have someone else to help. I think when you're in business, you start figuring that out. Hopefully, if you're going to be successful, you realize, oh, I got to have a great this person. This person helps in the business, and then, oh wow, this person can do this, and so, and I think it's the most the most valuable in marriage is when you realize both of us together, certainly for parenting. I mean, think about all of it. It's just all those things when you have someone with you, and then you have to figure out how you're gonna, um, how you can build that person up, to be the maximum helper for themselves, and then also for you and for your marriage. I think that's so important, is to realize that. And so, yeah, those are lessons I had to learn early on, where I felt like, man, because I think early on in marriage I was like, I'm gonna drive this thing, and I'm gonna, do all these things, and then you realize, like, I can, or I'm not even good at, half the things, or
Yeah.
or really important things. And again, some lessons you learn from crashing the car, and some you learn just as you pick up, and some you just kind of learn like, man, that was stupid. Why was I, why was I so,
Yeah.
now I can look back going, why was I so into that, but again, it's part of that thinking of what you think you're supposed to be, um,
Mm.
and then who you are and who you really become, and I think a lot of that's experience, but I think you can speed it up. So my advice to
Yeah.
husbands is you can speed that up. And some things you just, it's kind of like the Bible talks about sin. It never talks about working around it. You just have to rid yourself of, you just have to go,
Yeah.
like that's got to go,
That's
and
good.
and there's been moments when Corey and I both have told each other like, look, this has to, this just has to
Mm.
stop. This is too hard to and it can be on the most simple things. We have a where our kitchen is, and then there's a bathroom right beside the kitchen. It's kind of the main area. And I never realized someone would even think like this. And like I would leave that door open, um, and Corey would walk through, and she'd be like, I do not like this. I don't like walking in the morning and seeing a toilet,
For
And to me, I was
first
like,
impression.
who cares? It's like, why would you ever even? But then it would start the training, and this is it's the training of me thinking she doesn't like that door open, and I'm gonna close that door. The
Mm.
most simple thing, and sometimes the most simple things, you can see those in bigger areas of our life. And so as a husband, I would think that's just one of those little things. When I go out that door, I'm gonna close that door because she does not like seeing that toilet right there.
Yeah.
And I think as husbands and wives, but especially for husbands, we can just start those little things, those little training things where it's like, I'm gonna do that. If that helps, 'cause there'll be bigger moments that you'll have to deal with. But if you can take care of the small stuff, the bigger stuff becomes easier.
I'd love to ask you, Corey, as you guys, it's so true what you're saying about how in every season, those roles continue to progress, evolve, like shift. And it's so fun to even know you now as a friend and what you're doing even a decade ago when the kids were younger. Just watching that progression. I know it's been the same for us. In fact, in every season, while it invites new opportunity, it also invites new challenge, new layers of things you have to work out and work through because change is good, but it's also hard. And I find that for us, even in this like partnership role, it has shifted as our kids' stages have shifted when they were little. And then, like, getting everyone went through puberty, so that had its own season, and then launching, and then now you're grandparents. So I'm wondering how that partnership, like, what worked and didn't, in some of those seasons, and share, where, like, you guys became partners, but where there were seasons where the intimacy was lost because, like, head down, like, we're forging ahead in business and we've got that hat on and it's working really well, but is there a cost with you guys relationally? Would you quit on the pillow at night like I would do sometimes? Like, is this gonna work? How did you navigate that? And what were some of the challenges and how did you resolve?
Yeah, I think that, well, one of it, the main thing I think is just to think of it like your life is a marathon, it's not a sprint. There are going to be different seasons of that. And so that reminder of like, oh, yeah, this is a time when we're really investing in our kids right now and I can't travel with him as much as I would like to. And so that we lose some of that because it's like, oh, we actually aren't able to be together. We had a time whenever one of our kids was going through a hard time, some hard things, and we were like, okay, we actually can't both be gone. So
Mm.
one can go and one has to stay home, or one can go, and those things takes a toll,
Mhm.
on your marriage because, it is you can't have that date time like you need or that you want or that time, that fun time together. And so I think, remembering like we're in this for the long haul. Like our goal is like to be old people sitting in the rocking chairs together, and we have all these grandkids and great grandkids around that are running around. So that's like what our shared common goal. And that's
Mm.
the vision that we have for our life. And so like this time period, well, it might not look exactly like that, but we know what we're going for. And so we're gonna hang in there through this part. So definitely that. And then as far as like work, I would say Yeah, there's definitely been times whenever I was driving harder and working longer hours, and Willie was like, "Okay, stop. We need to stop talking about work." Like you need to like, and there's times whenever he's driving it hard, and I was like, "All right, you're gone too much. You're not part of the family life like we need to be." So, I think it's like those honest conversations sometimes is like, "Hey, I'm seeing this and it's not good in our marriage." And so sometimes that like I'm saying it very nicely, but whenever we're saying it in the moment, it wasn't that nice. Like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm seeing this, it was more
Right.
like you're this or you're that. Um, but but just remembering that end goal and like saying, like, here's what we actually really want. Here's our mission that we're on. And so like this is not serving that mission right now. If you're, with what you're doing or
Mhm.
I get it that I'm not serving our mission right now about what I'm doing, so I need to like pull back a little bit or change this or shift that. Or it's like, okay, we know that like, yeah, this is a time, but it's not always going to be this way, and we're going to come
Right.
back together. Um,
How
That
did
sounds
you
like
do that though? I'm curious. Like when you would notice something's off, and like how long would it go? How would it create conflict for a while? Would it be just something like this is like the practical stuff? Because I think the fighting, in fact, we have kind of pulled our audience of like we have 4 dysfunctional dances that happen when stress hits, and it's like silent, intense, avoidant, and anxious. And currently, of the people who are taking this quiz, the intense one is the highest right now.
Mhm.
Just maybe like you kind of you're feeling it, but then all of a sudden it hits a point where you just kind of like there's like a confrontation or like this isn't working or something like that. Like
overreactions,
yeah,
fighting,
yeah.
just but it's intense. It's like an
It's like
intense
yeah,
battle, when
Yeah.
these kind of
yeah.
conflicts
So do
come
you
up.
guys get to that? Or if you do get to that, how do you kind of repair?
De-escalate, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
We've never actually had an intense battle.
No, I would say
This morning. This
I
morning.
can't even picture it, guys.
our battles used to be a lot more intense, for sure. We definitely had. We were married very young. We had a lot of growing up to do, but it wasn't just
Well, it's
young.
not just yet.
Yeah, no, it wasn't just young. Like we have had some very intense battles. We are
Two
intense.
passionate
We're
people right
passionate
now.
people. We have like strong opinions.
Yeah, and it wasn't just like decades ago.
No. Like
Yeah.
we have strong
Maybe
opinions.
this week.
We can fight. Do we fight this week?
I don't think so.
I mean, Willie's crying though.
Good week.
I mean, he's already sad thinking about it.
It's been a good week.
I don't think we fight this week. So it's like
Because other people have told us that. Like other people that are around us are like,
so
what?
that was what was
Right.
really funny. Like
Yeah.
during
Like your kids?
funny, but maybe not funny, but during really when we were like growing Duck Commander and we were working like head to head on a daily basis, some of our people that worked around us was like, "Whoa, y'all really go at it," and we're like, "We do." Like we almost like didn't even realize it because it was just part of like how we like kind of battle out things, like how we talk
Yeah.
things through, and so we didn't even realize it sometimes that like, oh, we're intense with like
Yeah.
our opinions. We could definitely
Yeah.
have those strong opinions, and so I think we dealt with it different ways at different times. But I would say it like practically. Sometimes it did just take a blow up, just like
Yeah.
a full on
Get it out.
blow up, get it out, like, and then come back together, and figure out, okay, how
Mhm.
do we come back together in this? And then I think mm, the most thing I think that helped me was like trying to treat Willie with respect and him treat me with respect and know that like, okay, the intentions are good. The intentions are good, even though you see this totally different than I do. The intentions are good, our goals are the same. All right, how do we like come back to it?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's not always easy because, in the moment you're looking at
Mhm.
all the bad intentions or all the
Right.
the bad things, but to try to just remind myself, okay, no, like his intentions are good, our goals are the same. Maybe we need to like just battle this out and come to
Right.
the end of it.
Mhm.
But in the end, we're going to be together, and this is, we're
Right.
we're
Yeah.
in this.
I love
we're a team.
Well,
I love the phrase of Emerson, who we both know and love, Eggert. But he says, we used to think it was like a moral issue, and we get real intense and passionate about like I'm wrong or I'm right and you're wrong. And he's like, no, it's not right or wrong. It's just different.
Yeah.
It's different. Like you could go either path, and probably get to where you're trying to go, but you feel so convicted in your perspective of it, which makes that intensity ramp. So I love the fact that you're like, oh, yeah, there's validity, obviously, to both of these. We should probably de-escalate, listen, and understand what is common ground for us.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah,
love
and
that.
I may can answer this question because I've been on the other side of it. So trying to see how she how she deals with this. Um, I'd say when it's unhealthy, it's probably several of those four things you read off, but there will be this silence, and so and then like I can tell something's off. Well, then I'm trying to figure out what exactly I can't remember what it is that I've, and so, and again, I think when it's unhealthy, because we burn days and sometimes weeks on that, like of just, and I can tell, like, because she's mad about something. And so I think as we get healthier, if we have to figure it out and have it out, then we have it out. Probably we're going to have it out anyway. So
Right.
you might as well just go, and lose
Yeah,
all
it's
the
brewing.
the silent treatment and the pushing away that certainly happens throughout the day, throughout the night. I mean, you can just, it's like, and you got to post up, and then I think you don't,
Hmm.
and you're protecting your ground, and she's protecting her ground, and then and we definitely have lived like that. It's almost like you go through
Yeah.
a long time of that where it's just like I'm not backing off a bit on this, and and so you almost
Yeah.
feel like you're at war, maybe a silent war, the Cold War,
Yeah, it is a
Cold
cold
It's
War.
war.
kind of what it
Cold
feels
War.
like, it's like we're not on the same page, and so because either we've said or done something offensive to each other, and I think it is love and respect, and generally that's what it is. I'm like, she doesn't respect anything I do, and she's like, he doesn't love me, and so
Yeah.
and
Right.
that's this classic the battles that you have and just when she was saying earlier, I think this is for guys too, because I don't want this to come out the wrong way, but just because she says something, it doesn't mean that it's right. I think guys sometimes like, well, if she said it, it's right, and that's the way I should be. It doesn't mean it's right. Like you're saying, it's not right or wrong. It's just that's how she's feeling, and that's what she's seeing. And so, it's not bad to work hard. I think sometimes guys get confused and they're like, okay, you don't want me to work? Fine, we don't have any money. And then see how you like that, and see how you like when we can't. And so but you tend to go to extremes, right? You're like, I'm trying so hard. We just had a discussion last week that we should go on this vacation. And then, so I'm like, well, I better roll it up and let's make some money. Not that that's just a guy's job, but that's my mentality because I'm a CEO and I'm a guy who wants to fix it. If she says something, I want to fix it. Like, okay, fine. Here's the deal. We do this, we do that, and,
Right.
and that's part of where we had like with work when we worked together, because when I'm like, hey, we need to stop, because she's so detail oriented. So she wants to talk about details at 10 o'clock at night. I'm not a detail guy, and I'm like, I don't wanna deal with I'm like, I like other people to deal with details, but that's where she is with business, and she loves those details and loves to think through this, and let's think through this, and so
Mhm.
you have to find those points where it's like, "Look, I don't like doing this at night," and
Yeah.
and and she'll tell me I don't like, the things that I do, some of the things I do, especially with business, whether it's like, "Hey, let's haul off into this. I just saw something. We're gonna buy it. We're gonna start this." She's like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa,"
Yeah. So
Right.
you're more Willie, are you more the activator? You add to the you go after stuff, and then Corey's like pragmatically trying to but how could we do this and make
It's a mix.
or do you both
I
okay.
wouldn't say she's yeah, I couldn't put us either one in a box. Certain things she'll be like, "We're doing it," and I'm like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa," and then certain things I'm like, "How does she not see this is the most brilliant idea ever?" And so, our personalities are
We went through a
similar, like
phase.
they're on the Enneagram, like she's 7-8, I'm 8-7, so we run into each other constantly, with how
More is
we,
more.
which did help us too, by the way, to know kind of
Mhm.
how we are and how we think. And so it's according to what the project is,
Yeah. There was a
Yeah.
little phase where there's a few years that it was a real struggle. I was like, you start a project and I finish it. And
Mm,
I was getting resentful of it because I was like,
yeah.
you're jumping into these things, but then you're on to the next thing within a few weeks, and then I'm left to like finish everything that you just started, you know? And sometimes, okay, sometimes it's fine. But other times I'm like, I didn't actually want to finish this, but I feel a
Right.
responsibility and because I'm more conscientious, I'm gonna finish it. But you started it. So then we had to have a discussion of like, okay, like if you're, if you're gonna jump into this, like you're gonna have to see it all the way through, because like I'm tired of finishing everything you started, or there's times
That's good.
when those discussions have to be had because
Yeah.
one starts feeling that way of like, wait a second,
Yeah.
like this is not fair to me because you keep jumping into things,
Right.
but then I feel left. And you're like,
Right.
well,
Did
you don't
we
have to
agree from
finish
the
it.
beginning?
You're like, you don't have to finish it. Let it go. And I'm like, but that's not how I'm made. Like I can't just let it go. So then it's
Yeah.
like,
Well, that's
just
your
go,
problem. Corey's
that's your problem.
What's your
Corey's
problem?
problem
It's another
is
I want to
problem.
watch this. Yeah.
Corey's
Please keep
problem is
going.
this.
Tell me my problem, babe. Thank you.
Somebody will come in there and say, "Oh, here's how we'll finish it," and I'll be like, "Sounds great." She's like, "No, no, 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 no. I don't like the way that." I'm like,
Have a little
"What
perspective.
does it matter?" And this could be the cabinets, It's like, our poor fireplace that the guys kept having to tear down over, like stones all
Get
the.
the stone.
Corey walking like, "Nope." That is not how and I'm like, Corey, it's close enough. Like, come on. Like, the poor, these two guys, the bricklayers, are like, oh my gosh, she's coming back in. It's like,
Well,
tear it
you're-
down, let's
you're
do it
like-
again. And so
You're relationally you're thinking through relationally with these guys, like how mad they would be, right? That to
Somebody-
rebuild it, and you're like, just let it go. And she's like, nope.
No,
this is
she's like, I
how-"
got to look at this fireplace for the next
I
however
did-
many years.
I did give them a picture and like I couldn't have been more clear and they just didn't do it right. So,
Right. Yeah.
So,
that's
so we'll
good.
do things like, so we have so I'm like, okay, like I have a little piece of our attic, and I tell her, I'm like, this is my space. I'm gonna decorate it the way I want. I want the shelves the way I want it. Do not come in and be like, nope, this could be better. And so I do have that one space of the attic where it's like,
Oh.
I'm gonna hang stuff up everywhere. In the man cave.
Do you have air
To a certain,
conditioning?
to a certain
Got
extent.
the one space. The
To a certain
kitchen
extent.
is all yours. The man cave is all yours. The attic is all yours. There's not.
No, we have
The
to
farm.
negotiate.
Hey,
on
the
we negotiate
farm
on
is-
the kitchen. We negotiate on the kitchen. So
I've seen your animals at your farmhouse too, man. That is
Yes.
scary. When I walk in there and there's
Thank
like
you.
a cheetah in a glass case.
Thank
You guys,
animals on the
Corey did
wall.
not
Yeah,
approve
yeah,
Right.
yeah, for sure.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
well, we love you guys, and I think for couples that are
I do have one more question before we wrap. So, okay, the last question, because this is next gen stuff. Because I do love that you guys have modeled this so beautifully, and the advice of like, let it unfold, don't try to have it all figured out today. Because life will throw you curveballs. And I sometimes want to go, that's a grace. Like that when we got married and we were so pumped that we had no idea, like the hardships that were going to come, like even with Cade being born 3 years later, like I'm glad we didn't know. I really love that God gives us the grace for the things that we don't see coming because he knows that when they do, he will sustain us. What would you say to two things to those who wait to get married because they want to kind of figure out their career thing first? And so once they map that out, then they want to wait and delay marriage because I know you guys were married young and you have some kids that are married at all different ages. And then how are you, what would you say to kids that are getting married young and they do not know what they're doing? They're like hoping they can put like food on the table. What would you encourage them with as they find this rhythm of partnership?
I think anytime you get married, whether you're young, whether you're older, there's challenges to it. You're bringing two people from two totally different backgrounds to be unified as one. Like that's not easy. That's going to be a challenge no matter what. I do think that this kind of trend of like waiting till we have it all figured out is just a mistake. It's like a misnomer. It's just not.
Worldly.
It's not actually helpful at all. And I think a lot of people are seeing that. We're seeing, people with not having as many children because they wait too long and then they realize, oh, I'm past the point, and so I think that most people, if you ask them later in their life, they're like, yeah, I wish I would have started younger. I wish I had more kids because that's what really the most important things of life is your family. And that's where you get your greatest blessing. It's not about work or your education or any of that. That's not where you get your fulfillment in life. It's not how we were created to be, to get our fulfillment. And, you know, the work is a part of our life, and it is, and there's calling and there's purpose and all of that in that. But what is what you're going to have whenever you're old and gray is your family and the people that you pour
Beautiful.
into. So I think you should start as soon as possible. Don't wait.
Well, and
Yeah.
I see so much worldliness in that, and when I say worldliness, I mean it's like we're trying to figure out we want to have enough money, we want to have this, and then but it's like the things of the world because we want stuff and all that. And I'm telling you, the older you get, the stuff doesn't matter. I mean, I'm dealing with both of my parents now who are not good health wise and even Alzheimer's, and you just realize what doesn't matter, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
all this stuff, the
Yeah.
how, and it's
Yeah.
gone, in fact,
Gone.
even mentally,
Fleeting.
it's gone.
Yeah.
It's literally gone. It's none of this stuff, all the stuff that, that probably you fight about and think about and wanna get all set up, and I'll tell you who is there at this point, and, because I have little grandkids who are tiny and then my parents, and you really just see this whole spectrum of life, and you're like, wow, this is where, and in so many strange ways it becomes so similar, like my parents become like children, and it's like you're the parent, and then but you also have little kids. You see the neediness on both sides where they need that, and you start realizing what's really important. And I think a lot of the things that people are trying to uh, you know, capture and have, and I'm gonna have this set up and I'm gonna have this set up, and then you realize, man, at the end of the day, it's gonna be really these relationships and your family. Because once you start down that path, well, then you start, you get away from. Corey and I live by the Bible, so you start getting away from that, going, well, let's just try this one out. Let's try this one out. Let's try this one out. Well, we can try. We just start trying out people, and they come into our lives, and then you start seeing the scars and the damage from all this. Perhaps a child comes along, and then they're not together. Then that's going to create a whole new set of problems, and so that
Mm.
there is other ways, and not that God can't fix all that, and damage can be fixed, and you can go on and have a great relationship. For what worked for Corey and I was getting married young, learning to become partners at every level. We can go back to fifth grade, but we can certainly go back to when we got married and had to figure that out, and the struggles, and I mean, what a great partnership now, because I know what she was like at 20. I know
Mm.
where she changed and where she grew, and she knows the same with me. We know each other's vulnerabilities, weaknesses,
Mhm.
but also strengths, and have seen each other, grow and become better people, which is where we want to be. And my big advice is, for Corey and I, what we did know and what we had, what was very important for who I married, and the same way with her, was these principles, these biblical principles of love, forgiveness, repentance. I mean, these were the core things. So no matter where
Yeah.
your job
Good.
was or how much money we made, we didn't make money. We report points. We were had more money at points. We were even famous at points, and all this. Those things are that's rooted,
Yeah.
and those things are the things that have saved the day.
Mm-hmm.
What has saved the day is not
Mm.
Corey, and she just happened to, be a good person, or Willie was a good person, a strong person. Uh, there were times in our marriage when we just had to cling to these big, overreaching ideas of repentance, love, forgiveness, the fruits of the Spirit,
Good.
the
Yeah.
1 Corinthians 13, the whole aspects of love that Paul writes about, and ironically enough, those were the vows that we made. Those are literally
Yeah.
what we said to each other. And so you have to
Mhm.
dig deep and remember, yeah, those were the vow. That was what this partnership was built on. Because I've had
Mm.
so many partnerships in business that failed miserably. I mean, my father and her dad told me early on, like, the number one rule in business with partners is don't have a partner. And because so many of them fail, and what you thought it was based on, and then, you could even have a contract. You're like, we have a contract. Psh, you might as well tear it up, because, when that's not going right, and even if you have a
Right.
contract, it doesn't matter. You're like,
Right.
I'm not working with this guy, and I don't have to,
Right.
and you're going to get out of that. And I always tell people, these youngsters in business, I'm like, it's easy getting into these things, because my guys will come be like, we got the best deal ever. And I'm
Yeah.
like, it's so easy to get in. I said, it's really hard to get out. And when you
Yeah.
get out, and then it just gets messy and ugly. And so it's the same way with relationships, I mean, you have to realize what this is based on, where we at here, and then you just have to cling to those.
Mm.
When I said when the car crashes, you have to cling to those
Yeah.
things, and hopefully that
Amen.
can push you over.
Well, we love you guys and
Yeah.
appreciate the way that you not only have lived your life and the many years of marriage and family, but you've been willing to let the world in to see this and to give them a bit of an imagination for what does it look like for a family to follow God, to live in a life of forgiveness, fun, play, rhythm, and family. And I know you're currently you're taping the new series that's Duck Dynasty, the revival. Give us a little taste of what's coming and what people
Yeah,
can
a
look forward
little.
to seeing.
Are.
Speaking of when the show was being talked about, I wasn't sure. I was like, I don't know if I want to do another TV show. I had my life kind of where I
Yeah.
liked it and wanted it, and because I assumed Gabe would probably be playing golf in Palm Springs at some time, and I'd want to go, and I didn't want to have to say I have to work, and so I was really like, because I know what it takes, to do that. So I was a little more apprehensive, and but
There was
it
a
is.
point where he's scared. So it's interesting. We started talking about whether or not we should do another show. And initially, all of our kids were like, yeah, I'm in. We want to do it. And we are like, wow, I guess we didn't ruin you whenever we put you on reality TV as teenagers, because you want to do this again. And so we had lots of family meetings about it. Like, what's our mission? What's our why? What's our purpose? And
Mm.
how do we do this well? And how do we, just all of those things. And one of them, Willie, maybe you were in just at one of those. I want to go to Palm Springs and golf. And he was like, he scared them all to death about how hard it was going to be. And it is, it's hard work.
Hard.
It is, it's a lot of work, but it's such a gift that we get to do it together. I mean, whenever you see it, you'll see. It's just our grandkids are such a part of it. So this is Duck Dynasty, the Revival, which A&E came up with that name, which we thought was so fun that it's called the Revival.
Yeah.
But with all the implications of that. But
Mm.
but it is, generational living, just kind of showing people
Yeah.
that like what that looks like. And it's
Beautiful.
us, it's Phil and Kay now are, older and in a different space. And so Willie and I are the grandparents now, and our kids and then their kids. And just see a family that is not perfect, that lives together and does life together. And our family is built on faith and love. And we just try to kind of live that
Yeah.
way as authentically as possible with cameras that
Yeah.
follow us around.
Yeah.
And we get to have a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah.
Willie and I just were on a little trip in Puerto Rico, and the cameras followed us, and we did all kinds of fun things together. And yeah, it feels like that's what we talked about. We were like, this is pretty cool. We get to work together and play together, and
Yeah.
we feel like it's a real gift. And hopefully, our show, as people watch it, it is a light, and it puts out
Mhm.
the aroma of Christ, and it draws people to Him. And as people see
Yeah.
us, they don't see us, but they see Christ in us, and that's our goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think,
It's
I
beautiful.
mean, making TV is hard, and it's making successful TV especially, and but we realize, I realized the impact that it had on a lot of people, and not as much for entertainment or money. It's more like the impact that it had, where people are literally watching, going, "Wow, this is helping me," or "I'm learning something," or at least there's something, some light out there that I'm not seeing for sure. And and knowing that, and knowing how many people have just been touched by it, and then what can be um,
Hmm.
built off of that, especially for our children. I remember when I went to my dad about the original show, he was like, "Nah, I'm not interested. I'm not doing it." And I was like, "Well, I think we can get the gospel out to more people." And he literally just looked at me
Yeah.
and said, "You think so?" And he gave me the thumbs up and was like, "If it can get the gospel out," because knowing he didn't
Yeah.
want to do it, but it puts you back in the spotlight, which I was enjoying, kind of not being in the spotlight as much. And it puts you back out there. You got to get back in and kind of
Yeah.
stretch those muscles again, and battle and fight. And
Yeah.
but I didn't. I think I'm so glad that we did do it, and we're back in. And who knows whether or not people watch
No.
it'll be as successful. But I can already see, like, even you can see us, our family, even coming closer, because now
Yeah.
we have to work on this project together,
Yeah.
which is really
That's
cool. It's
beautiful.
cool when you're having to, all the way down to my grandkids. Like, and for some reason, I keep getting pitched with, I'm with the grandkids all the time, and
Yeah.
so And they're little
Sure you
tiny.
are.
Somebody said the other day, was this show scripted? I said, well, I'm working with 3-year-olds. You think you can script that? So that is my co-cast. But
I love it.
and you're depending on them. You're like, oh, I got to get through, Sadie's kids or Jolly's kids.
Yeah.
We got to get through this scene together, and it's really fun. I think it'll be memories for us, just selfishly,
Yeah.
that you'll never forget. That probably never would have happened. You know what I'm saying? Because we're all busy and have our jobs, and so
Yeah.
and we get to have it very professionally recorded, so we can always go back and watch it.
Yeah.
Right.
You've got your home videos
Which is
available at
really
any
exciting.
moment.
So yeah, that's what and we'll see what God's gonna do with that or whatever. And I am excited about your book. I will say, when we first came on, I thought that was a box of cereal. That's
You
what
ate
it
it.
looks. I thought you had like Fruity
It's like
Pebbles.
Fruit Loops.
I'm gonna have Korie stage it in your pantry.
That's
See
it,
what
yes.
happens.
I have read your book and I loved it, and I gave Willie the cliff notes. That's how our relationship works. That's
Yeah, I
for
love
college, everything. I did the reading and I give him the cliff notes. So
There's got to be a guy out there like me who Korie reads a book and she's like, "You have to read this book." We're probably on number 1,370 books that I have to read.
You have to
Yes.
read.
Did you do the audio version?
Yes, we
Uh-huh.
did.
Yeah.
We did.
You can listen to that like
did it
2.0
yourself.
speed.
Yes, we
2.0
did.
speed for
Yes,
you, Willie.
yeah,
Get through it
perfect.
fast.
I
Yeah.
will. I will. I have.
There you
That's
go,
what
Audible.
I do. I've
I think you'll enjoy the stories.
Yeah,
There's a
there's
few
some
good
fun
ones in there.
stories.
awesome. I will. Listen.
Well, I was thinking what you were sharing before we close about like the show is again, I know it's costly to kind of have to go put yourself back out there, but what you're giving is a holy imagination for the things you guys are most passionate about that you just talked about for the last 45 minutes, which is family. And so you're giving a visual, like an imagination for people to see and dream and reconsider what would it look like to live in a generational way. For so long, people would just leave their families for career or college and not return home. And I think I know we've been impacted by being your friends. Like, we're trying to figure out, like, how will we, like, we want all our kids close and we want grandkids close. Now, I know the Lord knows more than we do, but that can at least be a desire that's expressed, that's pursued, that's made a priority. That generational living is what God blessed, in the old covenant, like just father of many nations and generational line that follows you, that fears the Lord. Those are the things that are lasting. So the chance to put that on screen, to give someone even a visual or a picture of something that really does hit that deeper, lasting longing. Kudos to you guys. I'm excited for that. If nothing more, that people have a holy imagination again for family. That's everything. So thank you for doing that. We're going to close. We love you guys. Thank you for doing this. We could go on forever, and I'm sure you guys will continue over a game of golf. But anyways, we're thankful for you guys. We love you.
I feel the same way about y'all. Thank you for just everything you do. You encourage us and inspire us, and we've learned a lot from y'all as well. So we love y'all.
See you soon.
Guys, see you soon.